The string quartet was playing something soft and expensive when I realized she was watching me. She was across the ballroom, standing under that chandelier she always said reminded her of Vienna, even though she's never been. Her fingers were wrapped around a champagne flute like she owned the room. Maybe she did. That dress could have bought a small car. She stepped forward, and in that moment, every cell in my body screamed to run. But I didn't. I just stood there, frozen. My heart wasn't pounding, it was grinding, like a machine that had been running on bad fuel for too long. I watched her weave through the glittering crowd like she still had the right to look at me like that, like I still belonged to her. She lifted her hand. Slow. Measured. The kind of movement you'd expect from someone about to pull a trigger or sign a treaty. And I just shook my head. Not this time. Not again. See, you can't understand that moment without knowing about the Monday before the fire. And I mean that literally. Fire. It started with a flat tire on my way home from work. I called her twice. No answer. Left a message. Walked 4 miles back to our place because I couldn't get a ride and I'm too proud to ask my dad for help. Got there, shoes soaked, feet frozen, already drafting a petty argument in my head. But the house smelled like cologne. Not mine. And she was in the kitchen, in a robe I'd never seen before, making tea. Her hair was damp like she'd just showered, not just bathed, but washed something off. She looked up at me like I was the surprise. Oh, you're home early. That was it. That was the sentence that changed my life. I asked her where she'd been. She said nowhere. I asked who he was. She said, "What are you talking about?" I asked if she'd been crying. She laughed. That laugh. It didn't reach her eyes. It never did after June. Or maybe after that charity fundraiser when I caught her texting someone under the table, and she said it was just work stuff. You see, betrayal doesn't punch you in the face. It rots you from the inside out. Slowly. Silently. And by the time the fire alarm went off, because she forgot a candle in the guest room, I was already halfway gone. But I stayed. Because stupid men stay. Because we think broken means fixable. Because I still believed she had a version of herself that only I could bring out. Spoiler, she didn't. And that gala? That was supposed to be her clean slate act. Her big show. And I was just another prop. But I wasn't playing anymore. I didn't plan to go to the gala. Honestly, I didn't even know if my name was still on the guest list. I hadn't worn my tux since last year's disaster, when she made a toast to taking risks, while some guy 3 feet away winked at her like they shared a secret joke. But this year felt different. No, I felt different. I didn't go to be seen. I went to finish something. She wasn't expecting me. That much was obvious. When I walked in, she froze mid-sentence with her circle of donors. Her mouth was smiling, but her eyes twitched. I guess she thought I'd finally disappeared. Guess again. I wandered the ballroom like I was haunting it. Every corner reminded me of something I didn't want to remember. Her fake laugh. The way she touched my arm too deliberately when we danced for the cameras. The bathroom, where I once heard her whispering behind the door. I can't talk right now, he's waiting outside. That was last year. Back then, I told myself it was work. Some fundraising nonsense. But after what happened in our house that Monday, after the lie she served me in a robe I didn't buy, smelling like someone else, I started remembering everything I used to ignore. The truth was, she had been preparing to phase me out. Quietly. Strategically. First she made me feel like I was in the way. Then she stopped inviting me to things. Then she convinced me I hated public events. She even joked that I had social anxiety. Like I was some project she had to manage. I believed her. I started declining my own invitations. People stopped calling. Meanwhile, she was glowing. New jewelry. New phone. New passwords. She started staying late for funding meetings with board members I couldn't verify. Once, I caught her saying, "See you Thursday" on a call on a Monday night. When I asked who it was, she told me it was a florist. Yeah, a florist. At 10:47 p.m. So when I saw her at the gala, trying to pretend I was just another stranger in a room full of masks, I knew exactly what this was. Her final performance. She didn't want a confrontation. She wanted closure, on her terms. A soft ending to the story where she walks away elegant and guilt-free. But I had other plans. I waited until she was alone, scrolling through her phone in the corridor near the bar. Her face dropped when she saw me. She blinked like I was a hallucination. Then, she smiled, cautiously, and stepped forward. Her hand lifted slightly. A soft, delicate motion, like she thought we might still have some unspoken understanding. Maybe she even thought I'd take her hand. let her lean in, whisper some apology with tears in her voice, and I'd melt like I always did. But I didn't. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Not this time. Not again." The silence between us was louder than the music from the ballroom. She lowered her hand like it burned. Her eyes narrowed just for a second, then she gave me that fake half-laugh. "You're being dramatic, Emery." And just like that, my spine turned to steel. Dramatic? Dramatic was her telling people I was distant while sneaking around behind my back. Dramatic was her calling me unstable when I asked about strange charges on our credit card. Dramatic was her rewriting our entire marriage like it was some failed experiment. But I didn't blow up. I just leaned in, whispered 5 words that froze her in place, and walked away. Those words? You'll hear them soon. But first, let me tell you what I discovered the night I followed her yoga retreat to the wrong state. It started with a lie so lazy I almost laughed. She told me she was going on a yoga retreat. 3 days. Some spa retreat center upstate. No phones allowed. Just healing and intention setting. Whatever that means. She even packed essential oils and that ugly lavender hoodie she knows I can't stand, as if the more unflattering she dressed, the more believable the lie would be. But here's where she messed up. She left the retreat brochure in the trash, still unfolded, pristine like it had never been touched. I'm not a genius, but I'm not a moron. So I did what any self-respecting paranoid husband with a gut full of suspicion and a car full of gas would do. I followed her. I waited until midnight. I gave her a head start. I figured if I was wrong, I'd just turn around. No harm done. But I wasn't wrong. The directions she gave didn't match where her car was headed. And by didn't match, I mean she drove south instead of north. Not toward the mountains, but toward the coast. I tracked her using the AirTag she didn't know was in her sunglasses case. Yeah, I know. I sound like a crazy person. But crazy people don't usually cry in parking lots at 2 a.m. watching their wife check into a boutique hotel with a man who hugs her like he's done it 100 times. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't make a scene. I just sat in the dark, engine off, shaking like I was holding in a scream. I watched them walk inside, hand in hand, like we never existed. Like I was already erased. You know the worst part? I still hoped she'd come home and tell me the truth. That she'd walk in the door, drop her keys, collapse into tears, and confess. I even practiced how I'd respond. I'd say nothing. I'd just nod. Maybe cry too. We'd rebuild. Start over. But she didn't confess. She came home with a tiny seashell necklace and said one of the instructors gave it to her as a symbol of inner calm. I nearly choked on my coffee. Inner calm? She came back tanned, toned, and with a new laugh that didn't belong to the woman I married. It wasn't even acting anymore. It was replacement. And still, I stayed. I can already hear the comments. Why didn't you leave, Emery? Because it's never that simple. Because you don't just throw out a life you spent a decade building. Because love doesn't vanish just because trust does. But I didn't forgive her. I just paused. I needed time. And while she thought I was crumbling, I was collecting. Screenshots, phone logs, credit card records. I even checked hotel reviews to match names with check-ins. If I was going to be the broken one, I'd be a prepared broken one. And what I found in those records, it wasn't just him. There were 3 different names, 3 different trips. One of them even used our joint credit card. She paid for their steak dinner while I was home heating leftovers. So when I saw her at the gala and she reached out like this was some kind of fairy tale reunion, like I was still her loyal backup plan, I didn't flinch. I remembered all of it. Every mile I drove. Every lie she fed me. Every name that wasn't mine. And when she said I was being dramatic, that's when I leaned in and whispered, "You don't even know what's coming." Because I had already set everything in motion. The worst thing about betrayal isn't the moment you find out. It's the 100 moments afterward when you pretend you didn't. When you sit across from her at dinner, watching her swipe through her phone, smiling at texts she claims are from coworkers. When you fold her laundry and find receipts from restaurants in cities she never told you she visited. When she tells you, "I love you," out of habit, and you whisper it back because you haven't figured out how to say goodbye. After the hotel incident, I didn't sleep properly for weeks. I started waking up early, like for 30 a.m., just to sit in the kitchen and stare at the window while the kettle boiled. I wasn't trying to be noble. I was trying not to fall apart. Some people journal. Some scream into pillows. I read bank statements. I knew what I was looking for, a paper trail. And trust me, she was messy. For someone so polished on the outside, the curated Instagram captions, the matching robe and slippers, she was careless when it came to covering her tracks. Recurring Uber rides to addresses that weren't her office. Spa appointments charged to a card I didn't know she had. Hotel minibar charges at places she swore she'd never been. And the names? Different every time. Different cities. Different faces. It didn't take long for me to realize she wasn't in love with someone else. She was addicted to being adored. She needed that attention like oxygen, and I was just the guy who kept the lights on while she floated from fantasy to fantasy. The stable background character in her chaos. But I wasn't going to be background anymore. One night, after she fell asleep early, I crept into the guest room, shut the door, and called my cousin Beck. He's not a private investigator or anything like that. He's a locksmith. But more importantly, he's nosy. The kind of nosy that becomes useful when you need access to things your wife keeps behind a locked drawer. I asked him one question. If I give you a photo of a lock, can you tell me how to open it? He laughed. Give me 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, I was holding a tiny metal pick from a DIY kit he sent me years ago as a joke gift. I found her drawer. The one in her closet that she always kept shut tight, saying it was just old paperwork. I'd never looked in it before. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to know. Inside, letters. Not emails. Not screenshots. Actual, handwritten letters. Dozens. Different pens. Different signatures. Some of them were folded so many times they looked like confessions from a bygone era. And they weren't to her. They were from her. To them. Men I didn't know. One from someone named Elliot. Another signed by someone named R. One note had the words, "You made me feel like I could finally breathe again." Another one, "He doesn't look at me the way you do." And suddenly I wasn't sad anymore. I was angry. Because I had tried. I had done everything. Planned dates. Cooked meals. Cleaned up her messes. Told her she was beautiful even when she ignored me for hours. And still, she painted me as the villain in her little diary drama. So I made a decision. If she needed a performance, I'd give her one. The gala was in 5 days. And I was going to let her walk right into the trap she didn't even know I'd set. I didn't sleep the night before the gala. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't excited. I just didn't want to blink and risk dreaming about her again. My brain had started doing this thing where it replayed old memories like a highlight reel, except now every sweet moment had a crack in it. Her smile during our anniversary trip? Fake. The way she clung to my arm at her sister's wedding? Performed. Every kiss. Rewritten. But now I was done being an extra in the movie of her life. She'd built a world where I was the fool in the corner. I was about to change the script. 2 days earlier, I called her mother. That might sound like overkill, but you have to understand something about Mallory's family. They thrive on appearances. They don't do scandal. Her mom once uninvited her own brother from Christmas because he brought a woman who wore white after Labor Day. So I told her mom, gently, that I had something she should see. I didn't go into detail. I just said, "You might want to be at the gala. Mallory's made some choices I don't think you'd approve of." Her silence on the phone told me everything. She didn't ask what I meant. She just said, "I'll be there." Then I called her friend Camille, the one she used to gossip with about dead bedroom energy and how I was emotionally boring. Yeah, I heard the voice notes. What Mallory didn't know was that Camille liked me more than she liked her. And more importantly, Camille had receipts, literally. She had screenshots of texts between Mallory and at least 2 of the men she'd been meeting. Flirty, explicit, unfiltered texts. And Camille, bless her morally flexible heart, sent them all to me. By the time I arrived at the gala, I had everything. The proof, the motive, the audience. I stood outside for a long time before going in. Adjusted my tie. Checked my breath in the reflection of the rental car window. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming the version of myself I lost somewhere in year 4 of our marriage. The version that laughed without waiting for permission. The version that didn't walk on eggshells every time she sighed. When I entered the ballroom, I didn't even scan for her. I knew she'd find me. She always found me when she thought she was losing control. And sure enough, it took less than 20 minutes. I was near the fountain, pretending to text someone. She appeared at my side like a ghost I never buried. Her voice was soft, sugar-laced. "Emery, I didn't know you were coming." I looked up, deadpan. "You never do." She touched my arm. It was instinct, automatic, like she'd done it 1,000 times to make me soften. But this time, I didn't melt. I didn't even twitch. That's when she realized something had changed. She stepped back a little, searching my face. What's going on? I smiled, just enjoying the party. And then, right on cue, her mother appeared. Not alone, with Camille. And behind them, a tall man I'd never met, but whose name I recognized from the letter I found. Elliot. Mallory's eyes darted from face to face. Her jaw tightened. Her mask cracked. I leaned in, like I was about to whisper something romantic. But what I said was cold and sharp. I'm done covering for you. She blinked like she didn't understand, like she was about to spin some excuse. But before she could, Camille handed her phone to Mallory's mother. Her face paled as she watched the older woman scroll through the messages. A long silence followed. Then one sentence. I think you should leave. Mallory didn't even try to fight it. She just turned, and that's when she reached out to me. Like maybe I'd still catch her. Like maybe I'd still protect her. But I didn't. Not this time. Not again. When she walked out of that ballroom, she looked back once. It wasn't panic on her face. Not quite. It was something worse, disbelief. Like she couldn't process that her world had finally stopped bending around her. That I hadn't come running after her like every other time. That I wasn't her safety net anymore. And the truth is, I didn't even stay to watch the aftermath. I left right after she did. Not because I was shaken, but because I'd already done what I came to do. It wasn't about humiliation. It was about freedom. Still, I won't lie. Part of me expected her to show up that night. Bang on the door. Call. Something. But she didn't. Not that night. Not the next morning either. Just silence. Her favorite punishment. Until she wasn't the one using it. Then came day 3. She finally texted. One word. Why? That was it. No context. No apology. No confession. Just why. I didn't respond. Not because I was playing games, but because I genuinely didn't know how to answer. Why what? Why did I finally stop lying for her? Why did I let her mother see the truth? Why did I not protect her from the storm she caused? I left the message unread. I knew it would drive her nuts. By the end of that week, she'd tried every tactic. Guilt. Blame. Denial. My favorite was when she sent a voice note that started with, I don't know what you think you saw. As if I hadn't spent months piecing it all together like some crime scene detective with a broken heart. But none of that compared to what came next. A knock on my door. Late. Hesitant. And when I opened it, it wasn't her. It was Elliot. Elliot wasn't what I expected. No smugness. No arrogance. He looked tired. Like whatever game he thought he was playing had stopped being fun a long time ago. He stood at my door in a cheap jacket that didn't fit right, holding a folder in one hand and guilt in the other. I know this is weird, he said, voice low, but I think we both got played. I didn't say anything. I didn't even move. I just stared at him, waiting to see what angle he was working. After everything I'd seen, trusting anyone felt like walking barefoot across broken glass. He looked down at the folder. She told me you were separated, that she was filing the papers, that you were unstable. There it was again, unstable. Her favorite script. She painted me like a shadow. Passive. Unhinged. The bitter man clinging to a dead marriage. Meanwhile, she was the delicate flower just trying to be happy. It's incredible how easily people buy it when you deliver the lie with enough charm. I didn't know, he continued, until I found a photo of your wedding on her Instagram. Buried. Hidden. But still there. Then I started wondering what else she hadn't told me. And after that night, after the gala, she went off the rails. I opened the door wider, not to invite him in, but to let him finish. He handed me the folder. Inside were printouts of their texts, emails, and photos I hadn't seen. Some dated from months ago, others from before she told me she was going to visit her aunt in Denver. There was no aunt in Denver. There was a lakeside Airbnb. And him. He wasn't here to defend her. He was here because he needed to unload the truth before it crushed him too. She lied to me, he said. But she built that lie on your silence. And now that you're done protecting her, I figured I should stop protecting her too. I didn't thank him. I didn't hate him either. I just nodded and closed the door. That night, I sat on the floor with everything. The texts, the receipts, the photos, spread around me like puzzle pieces. Not because I needed more proof. I already had enough to write a book. But I think I wanted to feel the weight of it one last time. All the lies. All the nights I waited up. All the times I believed her over my own instincts. And I realized something. This story wasn't about her anymore. It was about me, and the man I'd become trying to survive her. But she wasn't done yet. Not even close. Because the next morning, I got served a legal letter. Her name at the top. She was suing me for emotional distress. At first, I laughed. Not because it was funny. Nothing about this had been funny in a long time. But because it was so predictable. Her suing me for emotional distress was the final act in the performance she had curated for years. The wounded heroine, wronged by the quiet man she thought would never push back. I guess it stunned her that silence doesn't always mean surrender. But here's the thing she never accounted for. I had documented everything. Every message. Every lie. Every transaction. I didn't raise my voice once during the whole mess. But I built a timeline that spoke louder than she ever could. I hired a lawyer. Not a flashy one. Just a meticulous, thorough woman named Marla who read through every line of the filing with the same calm you'd expect from someone choosing which wire to cut on a bomb. "You're going to be fine," she told me after reading it all. "This isn't a case. It's a tantrum." And she was right. Mallory's claim crumbled in weeks. Her stories contradicted each other. Her texts told a different version than her sworn statement. The judge dismissed the whole thing in under an hour. It didn't even make it to a second hearing. But what surprised me most wasn't the legal win. It was what came next. She stopped trying. No more texts. No more calls. No sudden visits or long emails begging to talk like adults. It was like she vanished, or maybe just ran out of energy once she realized I wasn't holding up the illusion anymore. And with that silence came peace. Real peace. I moved out of that house. I found an apartment 2 towns over. It's small, quiet, nothing special, but it's mine. No locked drawers. No fake smiles. No more pretending. I even got back in touch with my old friend Drew, the one she pushed out of my life. Turns out he had gone through something similar and had just been waiting for me to wake up. We met up for coffee, talked for hours, and for the first time in forever, I laughed without checking the room first. I'm not bitter anymore. That's the strangest part. People think betrayal turns you into stone, but in the end, it carved something better out of me. I'm not the same man who sat in that hotel parking lot, crying into a takeout bag. I'm not the ghost walking through a marriage he didn't know had ended years earlier. I'm finally free. So, if you're reading this and you're where I was, confused, doubting yourself, holding on to someone who's already let go, listen closely. Let go first. You'll survive. And if you're lucky, like I was, you'll walk out of the ruins stronger than you ever thought you'd be. And if they ever reach out again, just say it. Not this time. Not again.